That night, Elena and Marcus slip through the shadows of Georgetown, dodging the glowing sensors that track human movement after curfew. The rain provides welcome cover, dampening both sound and thermal signatures as they navigate alleyways where Krelin patrols never venture. Their destination, the abandoned Smithsonian storage facility now repurposed as a Krelin data processing center. "Remember observation only," Elena whispers as they access the maintenance tunnel beneath the facility. Her background in behavioral analysis makes her cautious, methodical. "We need patterns, not heroics." Marcus nods, his military training evident in his efficient movements. 6 minutes before the patrol returns, let's make them count. They emerge into the climate-controlled basement where crystalline data structures pulse with ethereal light. The aliens have transformed the human archive into something both beautiful and alien, living technology that breathes and grows like coral formations. Elena activates the specialized camera hidden in her jacket button, capturing the Krelin. Technology from multiple angles. A sudden clicking sound freezes them both. Above, on the main floor, a Krelin technician moves with the characteristic precision of their kind, adjusting control panels with four-fingered hands that seem to flow rather than grasp. Most striking is the breathing apparatus attached to its torso, more elaborate than the standard units used by their warriors. "They're struggling with our atmosphere," Marcus mouths silently, pointing to the technician's labored movements. Even through its exoskeleton, they can see the aliens. Difficulty adjusting to Earth's gravity. Each movement requires conscious compensation, lacking the fluid grace the Krelins display in their propaganda broadcasts. Elena's scientific mind catalogs every detail: the atmospheric processing unit, the gravitational compensation bands, the rigidity of movement patterns. Each observation reveals potential vulnerabilities in creatures that present themselves as invincible. Their surveillance is interrupted by a low-frequency hum that makes their teeth vibrate. The facility's central column illuminates, projecting a holographic representation of Earth's continents. Red markers appear across North America, Europe, and Asia. Resource extraction points according to the Krelin symbols Elena has begun to decipher. "They're planning something big," Marcus whispers, his expression grim as more red markers appear across the projection. Elena studies the pattern, her mind already forming connections. Not planning, scheduling. Look at the precision. Even their resource extraction follows perfect mathematical progressions. They retreat as the patrol timer on Marcus's watch silently flashes. Back through the maintenance tunnel, through the rain-slicked streets, past checkpoints using the timing gaps they've meticulously documented in Krelin patrol schedules. In her apartment, Elena downloads the images to a modified computer, isolated from any network. The data reveals what she suspected. The Krelins operate like a perfectly calibrated machine, each action precisely timed and coordinated across global operations. Perfect machines break when you introduce variables they aren't programmed to handle, she tells Marcus, a plan already forming in her mind. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to adapt, to think creatively, to change our approach when circumstances demand it. Marcus studies the patrol schedule she's compiled. These oversized bugs have never faced a species that thinks like we do. And that, Elena says with the first genuine smile since the invasion, is exactly how we're going to beat them. Professor, Ivanov hunches over her workstation in the Resistance's underground command center, surrounded by salvaged screens displaying cascading Krelin symbols. Her fingers fly across the interface, translating alien mathematics into recognizable patterns. 3 months of sleepless nights have aged her a decade, but her eyes spark with the thrill of discovery. Their language follows perfect crystal lattice structures, she explains to Elena as Marcus arrives with fresh intelligence from their European cell. Each semantic unit builds on the previous in mathematically predictable progressions. Beautiful but utterly inflexible. Elena studies the translations carefully. Can we insert our own communications into their network? Better, Ivanov grins, revealing a gap between her front teeth. We can make their own language lie to them. She demonstrates by altering a single mathematical variable in a Krelin command sequence. The entire message transforms, its meaning inverted while maintaining perfect Krelin syntax. Marcus whistles softly. They won't even know they're being manipulated. The Resistance headquarters buzzes with quiet efficiency. In one corner, former automotive engineer Raj Patel adapts human technology to interface with recovered Krelin components. Nearby, a team of hackers led by former chess prodigy Mei Lin maps the aliens' communication network, identifying nodes vulnerable to infiltration. Their greatest breakthrough comes unexpectedly. A resistance cell in Toronto manages to recover a damaged Krelin medical unit during an ambush on a supply convoy. Dr. Kai Nakamura, once a leading pulmonologist, analyzes the device in their makeshift laboratory. It's a respiratory supplement, he announces, displaying his findings to the leadership team. Their home atmosphere contains 30% less oxygen and higher traces of noble gases. Their biology literally struggles to process our air. Elena connects this to their previous observations. That's why they rotate shifts every 6 hours. They're returning for atmospheric treatments. She turns to Marcus. How quickly could we identify all their treatment facilities? Already mapping them, he responds, pulling up surveillance data on the main screen. 17 major facilities across North America alone, all following identical construction patterns. Professor Ivanov's voice rises with excitement. Their atmospheric requirements. Explain the rigid timing of their patrols. They can't deviate because their bodies literally can't handle extended exposure without returning for treatment. As the implications sink in, Elena calls for a global resistance conference. Representatives from cells across 6 continents connect through encrypted channels, their faces appearing on screens around the command center. We've identified a critical vulnerability, she begins, her voice steady with controlled excitement. The Krelins aren't just creatures of habit. They're physiologically dependent on maintaining those habits. She outlines the discovery about their atmospheric requirements, watching as understanding dawns across 24 faces. A resistance leader from Nairobi, her face half hidden in shadow, speaks first. We've noticed their patrols becoming increasingly disoriented during our seasonal dust storms. This explains everything. A scarred man broadcasting from Sao Paulo nods. During Carnival, their response times near the coast doubled. We thought it was the humidity affecting their equipment. It wasn't their equipment, Elena explains. It was them, and now we know exactly how to exploit it. The plan forms organically, as ideas flow between continents. Not a direct assault that would be suicide against their technology, but a campaign targeting their biological needs. Humanity's first coordinated counterattack would strike where the Krelins never expected. The very air they struggled to breathe. Operation Atmosphere unfolds in the pre-dawn darkness across 3 continents. In Chicago, former HVAC technician Sarah Okonkwo leads her team through maintenance tunnels beneath the Krelin Regional Command Center. Their target, environmental regulation systems that maintain the aliens' carefully balanced atmospheric mix. Remember, no sabotage, Sarah reminds her team as they reach the humming crystalline machinery. We're adjusting, not destroying. Using customized tools designed by the Resistance Engineering Corps, they access the central calibration module. The alien technology responds to their modifications without triggering alarms. The beauty of Sarah's approach is its subtlety. They alter oxygen content by just 2%, atmospheric pressure by 3 millibar. Changes too small for immediate detection, but sufficient to gradually tax Krelin biology. Similar teams in Melbourne and Johannesburg execute identical operations, creating a triangulation effect that will gradually spread across all Krelin-occupied territories. The Resistance calls it boiling the frog. Changes so incremental the enemy won't notice until the cumulative effect becomes debilitating. 3 weeks later, Elena reviews incoming data from observation cells worldwide. Krelin patrol efficiency has declined by 17%. Response times to security incidents have extended from an average of 4 minutes to nearly 15. Most telling are the medical reports intercepted from their command channels. Respiratory distress cases have tripled among their forces. Commander Zexitral appears on global broadcasts, his normally flawless posture showing subtle signs of strain. Temporary environmental anomalies are being addressed, he announces to the human population. Increased security measures will eliminate contamination sources. Elena watches the broadcast alongside Marcus and Professor Ivanov in their command center. Notice how he blames contamination, Elena observes. Their rigid thinking can't conceive of deliberate manipulation at this scale. Pride before the fall. Marcus nods, checking his equipment for the Sydney operation. His team has trained relentlessly in virtual simulations, practicing every movement required to infiltrate the communication hub. Their window of opportunity has finally arrived. Krelin response capabilities have degraded precisely as predicted. As darkness falls over Australia, Marcus leads his team through their insertion point, a drainage system that runs beneath the Sydney Opera House, now converted into the Krelin Southern Hemisphere communication nexus. Their breathing apparatus filters the trace chemicals Krelins use to detect human presence. Their movements mirror Krelin patrol patterns, exploiting the blind spots in security rotations they've spent months documenting. The hub's central processor stands unguarded. The Krelins never anticipated humans reaching this far into their facility. Using interface technology developed by Professor Ivanov, Marcus uploads the modified code sequences directly into their network. The crystalline structure pulses briefly as it absorbs the changes, its perfect mathematics now harboring a fatal flaw. Back at Resistance headquarters, Elena watches the operation's success confirmed on their monitors. Now we wait, she tells her team as green confirmation signals appear across the board. Within days, Krelin forces begin redistributing across continents, pulling security details from supposedly pacified southern regions. Their perfect mathematical models, corrupted by the Resistance's code insertions, now create a massive strategic blind spot. In the darkness of night, Resistance transport vehicles move freely through these newly opened corridors, establishing forward bases and supply caches. Humanity spreads like water finding cracks in a seemingly impenetrable dam, flowing, adapting, and gathering strength for the flood to come. Elena studies the holographic map of global Krelin activities, watching as unpredictable patterns emerge from the previously regimented alien operations. The Resistance headquarters hums with activity, as analysts track disruptions spreading through the occupation forces like ripples in a pond. Mumbai team reports Krelin gravity compensators malfunctioning across the region, calls out Priya Sharma, their communications specialist. They're stumbling like newborn colts. 3 patrol units collided in the financial district this morning. Marcus enters with Dr. Rahman, their faces tense with excitement. The intercepted transmission is fully translated, he announces, handing Elena a data tablet. Zexi Tral is asking for reinforcements. First admission of weakness we've documented. Elena scans the translation, her pulse quickening. More important is the homeworld's response, she says, highlighting the crucial section. They're stretched thin across multiple conquest fronts. Earth is low priority. The intelligence transforms their strategic planning. What began as guerrilla, Resistance now evolves into something more ambitious. Elena convenes the Council of Cell Leaders, their faces appearing on secure channels from hideouts across the globe. We aren't alone in this fight, she tells them, sharing the intercepted communications. The Krelin Empire is overextended. They're fighting on at least 4 other fronts, with resources prioritized elsewhere. From London, former quantum physicist Dr. James Wright reports progress on reverse engineering Krelin neural interfaces. We can't match their weaponry, he explains, his Scottish accent thickening with excitement. But their communication systems have exploitable weaknesses. They rely on perfect information transfer. Any corruption cascades through their entire network. In laboratories hidden beneath the ruins of Seoul National University, Professor Minji Park demonstrates their first successful interface with captured Krelin technology. Her team has created a device that can intercept and subtly alter neural communications between Krelin units without detection. Their hive-mind connection is both strength and vulnerability, she explains. Like a perfect crystal, beautiful but brittle when stressed along the right axis. The Resistance's growing momentum shatters 3 days later when Denver disappears in a blinding flash. Commander Zexatral broadcasts the destruction worldwide, his message translated into all major human languages. Resistance brings only annihilation. Submit or watch your cities vanish one by one. Elena watches the broadcast, her hands clenched into fists. The command center falls silent as the magnitude of loss settles over them. 2 million lives extinguished as punishment for a resistance operation that disabled a nearby processing center. He expects us to break, she says finally, her voice steady despite the tears tracking down her face. He thinks fear will accomplish what force couldn't. The response comes not from her leadership team but from the communication system. Across all channels, reports flood in. Civilians volunteering for resistance operations, former bystanders now demanding assignments, people willing to risk everything after witnessing the Kreelan's brutality. Marcus pulls up the recruitment statistics, his expression grim but determined. Volunteer rates have quadrupled in the last hour. Denver didn't break us. It ignited us. Professor Ivanov's algorithm for processing Kreelan psychological profiles completes its analysis. Results flashing across the main screen. They fundamentally misunderstand human psychology, she explains, highlighting key findings. Their species evolved with rigid hierarchical structures. They expect displays of overwhelming force to trigger submission. They've never encountered a species that grows stronger through adversity, Elena realizes, a new strategy forming in her mind. And that will be their downfall. As memorial candles flicker in hidden windows across what was once the United States, the resistance transforms, overnight, from a desperate guerrilla movement into a global insurgency fueled by righteous anger and unbreakable resolve. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's laboratory resembles a blend of high-tech research facility and scrapyard, cobbled together from salvaged equipment and repurposed Kreelan technology. She hunches over a microscope modified with crystalline components, examining cellular samples with intense concentration. Her assistant, a former medical student named David Chen, monitors equipment that keeps the alien tissue viable. Look at this, she breathes, adjusting the magnification. The neural adaptation signatures are nearly identical to human patterns. Elena peers through the eyepiece at the vril cellular structure, marveling at the similarities despite their insectoid physiology. The cells pulse with electrical activity that follows unpredictable yet organized patterns, nothing like the regimented Kreelan biology they've studied. Can we establish communication? Elena asks, straightening up. Already? Working on it, Professor Ivanov replies from her workstation across the lab. Their language structure shares mathematical irregularities with human languages, adaptable syntax, contextual meanings. Nothing like Kreelan crystal speech. For 2 weeks, they worked tirelessly to develop a communication protocol, combining linguistic algorithms with neural pattern analysis. Their breakthrough comes at 3:47 a.m. when the first coherent message transmits through the compromised Kreelan network, bouncing through 17 relay points to reach a distant star system. The raw response, when it finally arrives, sends electricity through the resistance headquarters. Translated from clicks and multitonal vibrations, it simply reads, "We still fight. You are not alone." Establishing regular communication proves challenging, but reveals game-changing intelligence. The Vril resistance has survived decades under Kreelan control, adapting and evolving their tactics just as humans have begun to do. Their leader, identified only as Tizket, provides encryption keys that unlock hidden portions of the Kreelan communication network. The crystal harmony fractures from within, Tizket's message explains, the translation algorithms improving with each exchange. 3 competing philosophies divide their leadership. Unity exists only in propaganda. Maps of the Kreelan Empire materialize on resistance screens, revealing expansion patterns and territorial disputes invisible to outside observers. Most valuable are the access codes to military networks, backdoors created by dissident Kreelans themselves, evidence that even their supposedly perfect society contains cracks. We've been fighting the symptoms, Elena tells her assembled leadership team, displaying the new intelligence. Now we can target the disease itself. Marcus prepares meticulously for the capture operation, selecting his team from the most experienced operatives. Their target, Regional Overseer Mekval, controls the neural network for the entire eastern seaboard. Unlike most Krelans who connect to the hive mind through external interfaces, command-level officers have direct neural implants, living crystal integrated with their brain tissue. We need those implants intact and functioning, Dr. Rahman emphasizes during the final briefing. Don't damage the cranial structure at any cost. The operation launches during a rare atmospheric storm that disrupts Krelan sensory systems. Marcus leads his team through maintenance corridors beneath the Manhattan Command Center, using adapted Vril technology to mask their biosignatures. They move like ghosts through Krelan security, reaching the Overseer's private chambers undetected. Extraction succeeds but triggers alarms during the final phase. Krelan energy weapons vaporize 3 team members as they reach the extraction point. Marcus carries the unconscious alien through service tunnels as pursuers close in from all directions. Their sacrifice buys humanity the most valuable prize of the war: direct access to the Krelan command neural network. In her laboratory, Dr. Rahman carefully extracts living crystal filaments from the captured officer's brainstem, her hands steady despite the enormity of what they've accomplished. These neural pathways connect to their entire command structure, she whispers, watching the crystal pulse with alien thoughts. We now have the key to their entire empire. Operation Ghost Army activates at precisely 0300 hours global standard time, synchronized across all resistance cells. Dr. Rahman stands before a console built from salvaged Krelan technology, her fingers dancing across crystal interfaces as she initiates the neural network penetration. The captured officer's implants serve as both key and gateway, allowing unprecedented access to Krelan sensory systems. Commencing phantom insertions, she announces, her voice steady despite exhaustion from 48 sleepless hours of preparation. Phase 1 deploying. Across resistance command centers worldwide, technicians monitor the operation's effects through intercepted Krelan communications. In New Delhi, a team watches as a Krelan patrol suddenly changes direction, responding to sensor readings of a resistance force that doesn't exist. Near Rio de Janeiro, orbital defense systems fire repeatedly at phantom human aircraft, wasting precious energy reserves. Elena observes the chaos spreading through enemy ranks from the central command hub. Their neural architecture can't distinguish between actual sensory input and our injected data, she explains to resistance leaders. They literally see our ghosts. The psychological impact proves even more devastating than anticipated. Commander Zexatral, his once impeccable appearance now showing signs of strain, addresses his regional commanders from his crystal chamber aboard the orbiting flagship. The resistance intercepts the transmission, watching as the Krelan leaders' composure cracks. These anomalies cannot exist, he insists, mandating increased security protocols across all channels. Units reporting unauthorized contacts will face immediate discipline. His paranoia spreads through the command structure like a virus. Regional commanders begin restricting information sharing, suspecting security breaches. Supply officers hoard resources rather than distributing them according to need. The perfect synchronization that made the Krelans formidable breaks down under the weight of uncertainty. Meanwhile, resistance strikes intensify. A team of engineers led by former racing mechanic Carlos Mendez infiltrates atmospheric processors in Buenos Aires, introducing carefully formulated compounds that induce mild hallucinations in Krelan biology without affecting humans. Their perceptual distortions compound the confusion caused by Operation Ghost Army. Former crop duster pilot Amara Okafor leads a squadron of modified aircraft through mountain canyons outside Vancouver, evading detection systems to drop electromagnetic disruptors near power distribution nodes. The devices don't destroy the infrastructure, but introduce power fluctuations that degrade shield effectiveness and communication clarity. Even teenagers join the fight. A group led by 16-year-old Prodigy Jin Park deploys homemade devices throughout Seoul that scramble Krelan navigational systems. Transponder drones draw pursuit vehicles into endless wild goose chases, burning through their limited fuel reserves. From his observation post in Melbourne, Marcus tracks the psychological deterioration of the occupation forces. They're trained to confront enemies they can identify and quantify, he reports to Elena via secure channel. When fighting an enemy they can't reliably perceive, their entire operational doctrine collapses. The first major defection occurs 3 months into the operation. The Argentine regional commander abruptly evacuates his entire force without authorization, abandoning a strategic processing center. His final transmission to command, intercepted by resistance monitoring stations, contains a phrase that quickly spreads throughout Krelin forces. Position no longer tenable in deception zone. The term catches on among increasingly superstitious Krelin units. Reports reference deception zone anomalies to explain equipment failures. Field commanders request transfers away from areas with high concentrations of phantom encounters. Their perfect military precision crumbles as uncertainty breeds fear, and fear breeds superstition. Commander Zekstral's attempts to restore order through disciplinary measures only accelerate the breakdown. Each executed officer for hallucination reporting makes others more reluctant to share information. The occupation begins to fragment into isolated pockets of resistance, each commander focusing on their own survival rather than the collective mission. Commander Zekstral strides through his command center, once pristine exoskeleton now marred with stress fractures that reflect his deteriorating control. Holographic displays flicker with reports of resistance activity across all sectors, patterns that defy the predictive algorithms that served the Krelin Empire for centuries of conquest. This ends today, he announces, voice amplification system broadcasting to all remaining loyal units worldwide. Converge on population centers with maximum available force. No structure remains standing, no resistance survives. Elena watches, the broadcast from the resistance headquarters beneath the ruins of Chicago University. 4 years of calculated warfare have led to this moment. The Krelins abandoning their strategic dispersion to concentrate their remaining forces for one overwhelming assault. They're doing exactly what we predicted, she tells the assembled resistance leadership, her calm demeanor masking the tension coiling within her. Activate blackout protocol. Across the globe, resistance operators move with practiced efficiency. For years, maintenance workers, delivery personnel, and infiltration teams have methodically attached specialized devices to Krelin power distribution nodes. These undetectable parasitic units developed by Dr. Rahman's engineering team activate simultaneously as Krelin forces begin their convergence. The devices don't destroy the power grid. That would trigger immediate emergency protocols. Instead, they introduce precisely calibrated energy fluctuations that ripple through Krelin systems. For exactly 7 minutes and 18 seconds, the minimum time required for their adaptive systems to recalibrate, their defensive shields flicker and fail. Marcus coordinates the Tokyo strike team from a converted subway maintenance tunnel, his voice steady as he directs the assault. Remember, target neural network nodes only. We don't need to kill them, we need to disconnect them. Strike teams launch across the planet, moving with the precision born from years of preparation. Teams in London, Nairobi, Sao Paulo, and Moscow deploy modified EMP weapons designed specifically to disrupt Krelin neural implants without causing permanent damage. The targeted approach leaves Krelin troops conscious but severed from their command structure, isolated for the first time in their existence. Commander Zekstral realizes the trap too late. His tactical display shows all his forces precisely where the humans predicted they would be, concentrated and vulnerable. Worse, his neural connection to the fleet suddenly dissolves into static, cutting him off from both reinforcements and retreat. Status report, he demands, but his communications officer stares blankly at displays showing only chaos. Throughout the command center, Krelins touch their neural implants in confusion as the hive mind connection that has guided them since birth suddenly goes silent. In Earth orbit, Krelin ships receive conflicting commands or no instructions at all. Some vessel commanders, detecting unknown signals penetrating their neural networks, conclude that nearby ships have been compromised. Energy weapons flare against the blackness of space as Krelin turns against Krelin, their perfect coordination shattered by suspicion and fear. Elena monitors the unfolding victory from Resistance headquarters, tactical displays showing Krelin forces in disarray worldwide. This was never about matching their firepower, she tells her lieutenants. It was about understanding their psychology and turning their strengths into weaknesses. As the 7-minute window closes, Krelin shields reactivate, but the damage is done. Their neural network, the foundation of their military effectiveness, lies in ruins. Isolated units with no connection to command structure face an enemy that seems to materialize and vanish at will. Some fight with increasing desperation. Others simply power down their weapons, awaiting instructions that will never come. Marcus reports from Tokyo as his team secures the regional command center. They're not even resisting anymore, he transmits, watching Krelin soldiers standing motionless, disconnected from the hive mind that has directed their every action. Without the neural network, they don't know what to do. Throughout the planet, centuries of Krelin military dominance unravel in a single coordinated strike, not through superior firepower, but through understanding and exploiting the fundamental weaknesses in their perfect system. The Krelin occupation collapses with a swiftness that surprises even the most optimistic resistance strategists. Across the planet, isolated commanders face impossible choices without the guidance of the neural network. Some initiate emergency evacuation protocols, abandoning ground forces in their haste to escape. Others surrender to local resistance cells, their perfect discipline dissolving without the constant flow of hierarchical instruction. In what was once Central Park, a Krelin battalion commander powers down his weapon systems and approaches. Human lines with open hands, the first documented case of a Krelin seeking peaceful resolution. Within hours, similar scenes unfold across continents as the occupation fragments into individual units making independent decisions for the first time in their existence. Commander Zexitral makes his final stand in the Washington Command Center, crystal staff crackling with energy as he fights toward his personal shuttle. His elite guard falls to coordinated resistance strikes, leaving him alone to face what he considers unthinkable: defeat by a supposedly inferior species. The ultimate irony comes in his capture, not by special forces or military units, but by ordinary civilians. A high school teacher named Michael Garcia, a nurse named Fatima Hassan, and sanitation worker James Wilson corner him in a maintenance bay, armed with makeshift weapons and unbreakable determination. "You were never what we thought you were," the commander tells his captors as his translator struggles to convey concepts foreign to Krelin thought. As resistance teams secure Krelin facilities worldwide, they discover vast archives of data transmitted continuously to the Empire's homeworld. Every aspect of the occupation, from initial invasion to final defeat, has been meticulously documented and shared with distant Krelin observers. The implications stagger Elena and her leadership team. Their victory hasn't just liberated Earth but has been witnessed throughout the galaxy. In the captured Washington Command Center, Elena and Marcus face the detained commander Zextral. The once imposing Krelin sits with uncharacteristic stillness, his crystalline eyes reflecting new understanding. "We measured everything that could be quantified," he admits, gesturing with four-fingered hands now stripped of weapons. Technological development, military capacity, physical capabilities. These metrics placed you as a Class 4 species, barely worth monitoring. His translator struggles with his next words. "We failed to measure adaptability, psychological resilience, strategic innovation, capacity for cooperative action without hierarchical control." 6 months after Liberation Day, new crystal ships appear in Earth orbit. Not the angular warships of conquest, but the flowing spiral forms of Krelin diplomatic vessels. The Krelin Empress herself has dispatched her highest representative to offer unprecedented terms: recognition of Earth's independence, non-aggression pacts, and reparations for damages sustained during occupation. At the negotiating table in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters, Elena reveals humanity's final surprise. She presents undeniable evidence of their alliance with the Vril and communication with 4 other supposedly subjugated species across Krelin territory. "The next time our civilizations interact," she tells the wide-eyed emissary, "you may face not just humanity, but a coalition of the adaptive. The diplomatic mission departs with the first interspecies cooperation agreement in Krelin history. As their crystal ships vanish into faster-than-light travel, Earth begins its renaissance. Cities rise from ruins, combining salvaged Krelin technology with human creativity. Global defense systems incorporate lessons from the occupation, creating a planetary shield network that makes Earth effectively impregnable to conventional attack. Most importantly, humanity emerges from the crucible of occupation transformed, united by shared struggle and collective triumph. Nations that once competed now collaborate, recognizing that their differences pale compared to their common identity as humans who accomplished the impossible. In distant corners of the galaxy, the story spreads like wildfire through subjugated worlds and neutral territories alike. On an unassuming blue planet, a species of adaptable dreamers defeated the Crystal Empire not through superior technology, but through intelligence, cooperation, and indomitable spirit. Humanity hadn't just secured its freedom, it had forever altered the balance of power among the stars, proving that even the most seemingly perfect systems contain the seeds of their own destruction when confronted with the beautiful unpredictability of the human spirit.